Welcome to Ra Online. Today we are going to discuss about the base of the skull. The PPT will be also followed with dry specimen demonstration. So let me start with the normobasalis. So this is the normobasalis. So you can see over here. So if we see that what are the bones which forms the normobasalis, you can see over here. This is the maxilla. Okay. After that, the pink color, you are having the palatine bone. Then as you go down, you have the vomer, which is green color. Then you have the sphenoid, which is the undersurface. We are seeing the inferior surface of the sphenoid. That is the orange color bone with the medial pterygoid plate and the lateral pterygoid plate. Then you have the temporal bone over here. So this is the temporal bone, the undersurface of the temporal. And the temporal bone has various parts. We will come to it as we discuss the normobasalis. Mainly three parts. So this is the petrous part of temporal bone. Then you have this purple color bone, which is fully the occipital bone. So you can see this occipital bone. In the normobasalis, part of the parietal bones are also seen, very little parts in the angle. Okay, so this is mainly forming the normobasalis, which is the undersurface of the skull, and when the mandible is removed. Okay, so now to make it easy, how do we read the normobasalis? So normobasalis will be divided into three parts, okay, for the reading purpose, to learn it properly. So anterior part will be formed mainly by the hard palate and the alveolar arches. So let's go back. So this is a line. I'm going to draw a line, imaginary line, to show you the anterior part. So this forms the anterior part of the normobasalis. So when the line is passing through the posterior border of the palate and the alveolar arches are over, so this part is the palatine crest. So the posterior border of this hard palate, and this is the posterior nasal spine. So this is where we draw an imaginary line, and the structures or the part which is in front of it is the anterior part, okay, of normobasalis. Then you have the middle part. For demarcating the middle part of the normobasalis, we will be drawing an imaginary line through the anterior most aspect of the foramen magnum. So this is the foramen magnum, the anterior most aspect of the foramen magnum, the anterior edge of this foramen magnum. We'll be drawing a straight line, and whatever structures are between these two lines, you have the middle part of the normobasalis. So let's come to here and to tell you that, see, the anterior part is formed by the hard palate and the alveolar arches. The middle and the posterior parts are separated by an imaginary transverse line passing through the anterior margin of the foramen magnum. So that is what we are saying. The anterior edge or the anterior most margin of the foramen magnum will pass an imaginary line, and that will give the demarcation for the middle part, the posteriormost part of the middle part. And beyond this, you are having the the posteriormost part of the normobasalis. Okay, so if you see, this is the anteriormost part of the normobasalis, then middle part of the normobasalis, which is extending from a line which is passing through the posterior border of the hard palate. Okay, so this is the posterior border of the hard palate and the posterior nasal spine. This imaginary line which is cutting across, and then the anterior line which is the passing through the anterior edge of the foramen magnum. Okay, now this is the way we are reading. Now let's come to the anterior part of the normobasalis. So if you see, this is the part which has been highlighted over here. You have the alveolar arches, and this is arched. This part of the hard palate is arched, and you can see a cruciform suture. So this is a cruciform. So there is a cruciform suture which is, okay, cruciform suture which is cutting across. Okay, so like this it is. So it is like a cross. So you can see this cruciform suture in the hard palate. When the mouth is open from the below, we are observing this. This is the alveolar margin with the tooth in the socket, and this is forming the upper jaw, mainly from the maxillary bone, the alveolar arches. This is the cruciform suture you can see. Now you have to say, you have to tell that this part of the anterior part of the normobasalis will be formed of mainly two bones. Okay, so you have this part. This is mainly from the maxilla. Okay, so this is from the maxilla, and now if we go down Okay, let me just label this. So this part of the bone, what you are seeing now over here, it is from the palatine bone. So this is the horizontal plate of the palatine bone, and the green part are the palatine processes of the maxilla. So this is the alveolar process of the maxilla, and these are the palatine process of the maxilla. Okay, now come to the anterior most part. So you can see over here, this has been boxed out, the anterior most part. So you have the alveolar arches over here. So alveolar arches are bearing the socket for the roots of the upper teeth. Then the hard palate is mainly, we are seeing the hard palate, and how the hard palate is formed, the anterior 2/3. So this part, so anterior 2/3, this part is formed by the palatine process of maxilla. So this is by the maxilla. Okay, so it is by the palatine process of maxilla. It is written over here. Okay, so palatine process of maxilla, whereas the posterior 1/3 is by the horizontal plates of the palatine bone. So this posterior 1/3 is by the horizontal plates of the palatine bone. So that is actually forming the anterior part of the normobasalis. Now let's come to the features of the hard palate. So if we see the hard palate, I already told you that you have a cruciform suture which is made up of. So if we go back and see this suture again, so you can see that this part is maxilla. So palatine bone. So these are the palatine process of maxilla. So this suture is between the two palatine processes of maxilla. Okay. Now look at this suture over here. This suture is between the two horizontal plates of the palatine bone. Okay, fine. So that is why we are having the intermaxillary suture, then interpalatine suture. So if you see this line, so if we observe this line, so this is having an interpalatine part. So this is the interpalatine. Okay, so this is the interpalatine suture. Okay, and then this part is having the intermaxillary suture. Maxillary suture. So intermaxillary suture. Fine. So this is having the interpalatine suture. This is having the intermaxillary suture. So you have that. Okay, in the palatine bone. Now, anything else? Yes, we have also. It is just a straight line. Now, what about the cross? So we have to get a cross. So let me show you the cross. So this part. Now this is the line. So this is another suture over here. So this is mainly the palatomaxillary sutures on either side. So you can see the palatomaxillary sutures, because this is by the palatine bone, and even this part is also palatomaxillary suture. So interpalatine, intermaxillary and palatomaxillary. So together you are getting this cross. Okay, so this cross is now known as the cruciform suture because it is forming a cross. Now definitely the palate also gives lot of small pits will be seen over here. So you will be observing some pits over here, small pits. If you observe deeply, I'll be showing you in the dry bone specimen. So this is the pits, and these pits are actually the showing you the pit for the palatine gland. So bony palate will show the pits for the palatine gland. Now coming to the incisive foramen or the incisive fossa. What is it? It is a deep fossa situated anteriorly in the median plane. So you can see this fossa over here. So this is a deep fossa which is situated in the anterior plane, and this is the incisive fossa.